Hello YouTube. Today I'm just going to give you my thoughts about the new Outlaw season coming after Torchlight. I am very excited. I have quite a few notes that I've written up for us about just things that I saw in the patch notes I think were really interesting or things to look at. But I'm just going to start off by just going through this video quickly. If you haven't seen the season preview, I would highly recommend just going and watching it. And then you can listen to just Andre and this gorgeous man Andre, just giving you an overview of all the notes and things. But if you haven't heard it, the new hero that we'll be getting is Rosa. Rosa 2, or Rosa the Unsullied Blade. Rosa is a mana stacking hero whose whole concept and idea is just going to be getting a ton of mana, and then converting all of your damage taken to mana, as well as probably playing something like Moonstrike where you can scale mana and stuff. It's going to be a very, very strong build. I think there's a lot of potential with this Rosa build. Reading through the traits that she has, she is very, very, very strong. But I'm sure all of you know that already, right? Every YouTuber and their fucking mom is gonna make a video about Rosa, right? There is some other very strong things I noticed in this patch that I actually want to focus on. But if we first go through this, so the new Outlaw mechanic seems pretty fun. I'm happy it's an in-map mechanic. It is very reminiscent for me of playing like a Betrayal in PoE 2. It has quite a few similarities to it, but it's not quite the same as Betrayal. It is kind of just its own thing. The only thing I can hope for when I look at this is that these carjack transport vehicles is not going to be too annoying. If you have to do any sort of transport mission, which I'm not sure if you actually need to, I really, really, really hope that it's not too annoying. Other than that, though, I'm actually a big fan of the Outlaw mechanic. I'm really happy that we're having an in-map mechanic again, and the new gambling that they've added is insane. So let's go to the new gambling so I can showcase that to you guys. So with the new Outlaw mechanic, you'll be getting these tokens, and these tokens can then be used to gamble on items. So let's say that you have a situation like this, where you gambled your item and it bricked, and now you have 4% energy shield, and damn, this is trash. There's some corrosion implicits that are actually very, very strong to have. For example, you can have immune to curses as a corrosion on your ring, which immune to curse is a T0 base implicit to have on a ring. So that could be a very cheap way to get that T0, immune to curses on the ring, by putting the item into the reroll corrosion base affix and then rerolling it. And as you can see, it's a very high chance to reroll the base affix and a very small chance to poof it. Essentially what this is just going to do is that the risk for corrupting items next league is going to go down quite a lot. Because the biggest brick you can get when corrupting items is getting a base affix. But now, even if you do get a bad base affix, you can still try to salvage it by by rerolling it into something decent. Which is quite nice. I'm a big fan of this. And also you can intentionally corrode items to get an implicit on it, and then reroll the implicit until you get a specific implicit. For example, let's say that your build is using a wind breath, and you're playing a channeling skill. You can just buy yourself a bunch of wind breaths and just keep corroding them to try and hit the max channel stacks corrosion. But if you happen to hit an implicit on it and you have a +4 one, you might as well just reroll that implicit and try to get immune to curses. And now your wind breath, maybe it doesn't have as much damage, but it gives a massive, massive amount of utility by giving you immune to curses. And if you go into LDB, you can see all of the corrosion implicits and things that things can roll. And it seems actually a really fun, creative way to go about building. We're gonna have to see how common these tokens are and how expensive they are to use early game. But I'm definitely a big fan of just the idea of rerolling corrosion affixes. For example, this, you can get focus blessings, you can get max blessings as a corrosion base affix. You can get immune to frostbite, you can get trigger curse. Oh yeah, that's another thing. You can now reliably get curse on hit for a corrosion affix on a unique ring, which is very nice. It's a very nice feature. And then also they added the harvest bench. Listen, If you've played PoE1, you know what the harvest bench is. We've all been there. You have your two apothecaries. You're gonna make a mage plot. You put it in. You click the button. You have 0 apothecaries. You're broke. They fucking added the harvest bench to this game. I'm so happy. I'm so excited for card gambling. It is such a stupid thing, but I love it. This could literally make or break someone's league. Um, Wait, what was this? Let me just check this again quickly. So energy limit has been increased. This is something that I'm not sure if they'd like actually talk about it, but if this works in the way that like, if you look at current items, right, the most energy you can get on an item is 61, except for chests, which go to 122. If this allows you to like make this limit go above 61, and it's just like something that you can just like spend for free, I think that's very, very interesting. And like very, very powerful. I'm a bit confused by it if that's how it works. If it doesn't work that way, and it's quite simply that it just, it's like, let's say you get a 59 energy roll, and you don't want to spend 1,000 energy cores to get to 61. You just put the item in, you just click it a few times, and it goes from 59 to 61. That's a very, very nice quality of life change. And it should also mean that energy cores are going to be cheaper, which makes that both options are going to be fairly like decent to use to like get max energy in like the early game. Also, reroll all affixes of non-legendary gear. This is gonna be like a way more expensive true fossil, but if you do win this gamble, you can get like a perfect divine. Everything in your, like a perfect true fossil. Everything on the item is just gonna be perfect, but it is quite expensive. This is 84 true fossils. At the current price of true fossils, like, you generally only spend like 1 or 2 true fossils to reroll your gear. Yeah, I also don't think the energy is gonna go over max, but if it does, that's crazy. But it doesn't make sense to go over max. And yeah, big fan of this. Overall, very, very cool season mechanic, very interesting. And another thing that they added is that you can reroll your undetermined fates to try and like just upgrade them. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this, because while it does make like low quality, like low tier undetermineds way more valuable, because you can try to upgrade and gamble them into something insane, it's also just gonna increase the price of undetermined fates across the board. Because in the patch notes, there was no changes to like the drop rate of undetermined fates, which means like if you're a very rich player, you're gonna go on the market, you're gonna go advanced, divinity slates, destinies, and you're gonna go like, oh, let me just buy every single one that's a medium. There's gonna be a ton of them with listed with a medium. You're gonna buy every single one of them and try to upgrade from 1 medium to 2 medium. And I feel like that's actually kind of a very tough change, because that's really gonna affect like that's really just gonna affect your ability to like get undetermined fates if you're not someone that's like in the cutting edge. But again, they could have just changed the drop rate and increased it, which in that case, fair enough. But overall, I'm a very big fan of this. And then the newest thing they added is very similar or very reminiscent to blending affixes. So in the Sandlord season, you're able to like blend like hero traits and talent traits, things like that on your belt. This is like a very similar thing, but it seems like they added a lot more new items and like a lot more interesting ideas here, which I really am a big fan of. I'll show you some of them now, but I do want to mention this. From what I've seen from the blending affixes, one thing that they did change in the patch notes is that they've made it that blending affixes can no longer give you hero traits. So there was a lot of builds that like relied on this, and there was build around like having 2 hero traits and stuff. That is now gone. That will not be a thing anymore. But other than that, it seems like you can still get your like main talents and things on the belt, so it's still going to be very, very, very strong. And there's like a ton of really strong belt affixes that you can use, or like belt blends that you can use. So some of the new sequences that we can add to the weapons are very interesting. I do wonder if you were able to sequence a shield as well, but I assume so. I assume it's just anything that's on a weapon slot. The one concern that I have about weapon sequencing is, will two-handed weapons be compensated by the fact that you don't have an offhand weapon? Or is this going to be something where you can only put it on the main hand weapon? Because if not, it's actually a massive nerf to two-handers to not have an offhand, to have these two sequences on it. Because the sequences are very, very powerful from what I've seen so far. So some of the extreme powerful sequences is like Absolute Order, has 100 points of fixed order. That if your order is always fixed to 100, that is very, very, very powerful. Because if you've never played an order build, generally when you set up an order build, a lot of your like legendary slates is gonna get spent on making sure that you have a lot of order gain or you don't lose order quickly, so that you can like reach 100 very quickly. If your order is always fixed at 100, you can just ignore that completely. And then you can just do stuff like this, like 0.15% additional attack damage for every point of order. This is literally just 15% additional attack damage, you know? This is 13% additional fire damage. This is 13% additional lightning damage. Like, order is very, 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 very strong. Order generally can get you a lot more damage on your, like, on your pet, on your Statue of the New Gods, or like your slates, than anything else. Because generally when you look at your slates and stuff, a lot of things will be like 12% additional damage, or it'll be 10% additional damage, or it'll be plus levels, which is now 8% damage, and I'll get to that in a second. Order generally is going to give you 15% additional damage on like everything it does. And you can just stack these up like crazy, especially with like a Rift Slate. You can get insane amount of crit from Order, you can get additional max damage from Order, you can get additional lightning damage, you can get additional fire damage. And not only all of these changes, but with Order, you can generally make yourself the 5 mod divinity slates that just have 5 Order mods on them. I think Order is definitely going to be something to look out for this league. It's definitely going to be something to like consider when making a build. Because there's so many like strong Order options that are very, very interesting to build around. And not needing to worry about generating Order anymore is a very big thing. Because in the past, to be able to get Order, you needed to have God's Footsteps, which gives it that talent effect of this, blah, 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 blah. Talent effect of the slate when there's no God Footstep in the same Lotus column. Oh, sorry. I was reading wrong. The God's Footstep has a top thing. Additional Order decrease speed, and additional Order... yeah, plus additional Order decrease speed, and minus additional Order decrease speed. Instead of needing to deal with that, you will always just have 100 Order. It will never, like, degen is a massive, massive, massive buff to ordering. To, like, Order, it opens up a lot of space to fit more Order mods in. I overall think Order is going to be very, very strong. And funny enough, this isn't even the most crazy sequence that I saw. So this sequence up here, Eternal Moment plus 30%, it gives low tier Eternal Nightmare, low tier Eternal Shadow, low tier Eternal Morale. If you don't know what those mods are Eternity mods, which give you like damage, cast speed, crit rating, crit damage, and movement speed. We don't know yet what low tier means, but this is possibly going to be a very, very, very strong mod. But at the same time, it does have a steep cost. I can only assume that 3 times 4 and a 5 is going to be very expensive. Whereas the Order mod is like 2, 2, 2, 2, which is a lot of power for cheap. So this should be more achievable early game, and this should probably be like more of a late game upgrade that you can get. So they... is there anything interesting that they show here? So, at the moment in the patch notes, they don't actually show us the sequences yet that you can get. But, like, you're gonna occasionally see something like, oh yeah, 20% additional hit damage for cast when spell burst. And I believe someone also said there was a deck stacking mod that you can put on your weapon. There's definitely some interesting things that you can do. Main skill supported by control spell. Like, these weapon mods are incredibly, incredibly strong. They are absurdly, absurdly strong. So I'm very excited to see like just how strong just what options they're gonna be, and I'm very excited for when they upload them to TLDB, Because as soon as we know what all the sequence modes is, I can sort to Theorycraft and make a build for us. But that's all from here for now. Now, New Hero Rosa, very, very cool hero. She will be a mana stacker. I think she's going to be very strong. I think mana stacking is a super, super strong archetype. And I think that she has like a lot of built-in convenience of mana stacking, as well as the newest legendary pet they're adding for mana stacking is extremely, extremely powerful. This one, the Valkyrie Night Patrol. This legendary pack spread is going to give you 6 stacks of Valkyrie's Hymn, which gives you 4% additional LA damage multiplicative, which, to give you an idea how much that is, you're going to be gaining. She's going to give you 26% additional elemental damage. She's going to also, on top of that, give you 48% just flat elemental damage and 10% LA pen. Very, very, very strong pet. And it's going to go very well with the Rosa. And you could already get quite a lot of mana last league on like Rosa 1 with Haunting Abomination. They're adding a lot more ways to get even more mana this season, which I think mana builds are really tanky. I'm definitely going to need to Theorycraft this a bit, but I think that I will be coming out with a Rosa 2 build. Even if I don't end up playing her, I do think she's going to be like by far the strongest hero this patch. Isn't Shield 2? Oh shit, that's good. Also, she looks really pretty. Okay. Let's see, those other things also. So another big change they're making is to the talent tree. Your talent tree now is going to have an extra option. So if you look currently in game, the way your talent tree works is you get to choose one of 3 options. And there's 4 in like Gods Hunting, 4 in God of Might, 4 in Gods of Knowledge. They will be adding an additional tree to each one of these, which they do tell us in the patch notes. Which is just Warrior, Assassin, Prophet, Sentinel, Lich, Artisan. But on top of that, the way talent trees work at the moment is you can choose like a main talent and a secondary talent, and then main talent, secondary talent. They are changing this, that your secondary talent tree, and your third one, and your fourth one, you can only choose 1 talent. So your first one, you can still choose like 2 talents, but for everything else, you can only choose 1 main talent. And they're reducing it down to only 4 main talents. But with that, they're also removing a bunch of main talents and adding some new ones. None of the ones that are removed is too exciting, but there is some unfortunate ones. Like we're losing Flash of Brilliance, which was a very good defensive option for an evasion build. We're losing Adaptation, which was extremely, extremely strong. And I'm quite sad to lose that. But overall, nothing here is like too big of a loss. You know, you'll be fine. And a lot of the new ones they're adding is quite interesting. And as well as they're like reworking some of the ones. Some of the reworks, like Formless, is a massive, massive nerf though. So there's definitely some hidden nerfs. But most of the changes here is just like increasing things from 20% additional to 25% additional. Which is most likely just to compensate for the fact that you can only choose 1 instead of 2. Also, with these changes, pedigrees can now roll all talents on them. Whereas in the past, the way that pedigrees used to work is that you could roll a secondary option and a primary option. What I mean by that is, if you have Conductive on a pedigree, you literally cannot get a single other pedigree to have like Gale on it, for example. It wasn't possible because both of these are like a first option or like a 16-point option. You could only combine it with a 32 option. And if your pedigree had a first option, it would always have a second option. Which is why pedigrees like Source are so rare, because it has to roll two talent mods instead of just 1. That's going to be removed now. It can just roll whatever, which is a nice change. Let's see. I'm kind of a fan of the new talent tree. I think it's gonna be interesting to play around with. I do like them changing the talent trees and like just making it more interesting, I guess. I will be interested to see how many points you can put into each talent tree, because at the moment, if you look at like how many points I have in talent trees and stuff, even though I have this many points on all my talent trees, I still sometimes wish I had more points. If you have a 4th tree to put points into, like it's definitely gonna be interesting. But at the same time, an option of like going into a tree that isn't that good, just getting enough points, just like choose like the like one main talent, and then going next tree is definitely gonna open up then. So that'll be interesting to see. They added a lot of new suffixes and prefixes and suffixes. This is something that I do want to go over because this is a big part of my notes. So something that they've done this patch that I think is very, very interesting is they've added to boots and shields first convert. First damage taken is converted to fire. This used to exist only on chest and on helmet. You can now also get it on boots and shield, as well as they've added it as a prefix on boots and shield. And they've also added erosion convert. So chest and helmet, chest, boots, helmet can now like get corrosion convert as a modifier. And just in general, something else that they changed about shield that I'm not sure if this is a typo because this is crazy to me is the base affix on a shield can now roll 5% max res instead of only 3%, which that's a good change. I agree with that. But the modifier, the ultimate mod, max res on shields now go up to 8%. I can only assume if this is T0, this will go up to 10%. Which means if you have a shield, you can literally put in your shield base affix 5 max res, dream affix 5 max res, ultimate affix 10 max res, and just have 80% max res with just one item. I think a very, very, very strong bolt this season is going to be getting 90% max res, and then getting 100% first convert, as well as 100% erosion convert. It is quite costly in terms of just the amount of base affixes, dream affixes, and prefixes that you need to use for it. But I think the gain that you would gain from that far outweighs the cost, and you will still have space in your build to like scale damage and things. And on the topic of damage, they made a massive change this season to the damage cap. So the way the damage cap worked last season is every second there would be 30 frames in a second, and within 3 frames you had to do 1.5 trillion damage in order to reach the damage cap of 15 trillion. 15 trillion was the damage cap. This season they're increasing that to 6 frames. So every 6 frames you have to do 3 trillion damage to reach the damage cap of 15 trillion, which means if you're using a slower skill, you only need to cast 5 times per second in order to reach the damage cap of 15 trillion. Now, unfortunately, with this change, they did also nerf a lot of activation mediums. So, Rhythm in particular used to be, would be very, very good for this change, because you could proc Rhythm every 0.2 seconds, which would be 5 times a second. They have nerfed it to 0.3. And on top of nerfing Rhythm, they've also just nerfed Track quite heavily. They've nerfed the Instruction medium. They've removed Blink Attack entirely. Like, Activation medium, Blink Attack is gone. And they've, like, nerfed Still Attack, Burst Activation again. Just a lot of the activation mediums are getting nerfed, including Sentry. Although, I will say for Sentries, there is some very exciting things for Sentry. They did add a new main talent for Sentries, which is Shared Fate, which makes it that if there's no sentry within 10 meters, you will just automatically place a sentry, and it will always place the maximum number of sentries, and your sentries will do 25% additional damage. I think this is a gigantic buff to sentries, because not only do you not have to use activation medium sentry anymore, which means you're freeing up that slot for something else, it's a lot of quality of life, because you don't need to worry about like the amount of sentries you're placing anymore. So you don't need to use activation medium sentry, you can use like a different skill. You don't need to worry about the amount of sentries you can place, because it just does it for you, it always places the upper limit. All you need to do is just get the limit of 4. Like, reach 4 max sentries with this, which is just a very, very nice quality of life. It does have, though, a 1-second interval, which makes me feel like you probably still do want to use activation medium sentry, which then maybe it does get a bit scuffed, because they also nerfed activation medium sentry to only place 2 at a time. So we'll see. I'm personally not a sentry player, so I can't give too much opinion on it. I do, however, think that Fizz convert to Elemental and Erosion convert to Elemental is going to be very strong this season. And another modifier that they added to gear is this. armor effective rating. Strength chests and heads now have a base affix called armor effective rating. So the way that armor worked before is armor is basically a scaling DR that goes up to 80%, and your armor is like it's less effective for elemental damage. So armor gives you resistance to both elemental damage and to physical damage. It gives 100% to physical damage, but only 60% elemental damage. Generally, if you like get like 50k armor, you reach that 80% DR capped against physical damage quite easily, but your elemental damage is only going to be about 60%. And it doesn't matter how much you scale your armor. Getting armor from like the 50 to 60% DR damage against elemental to 80% just wasn't possible. You needed millions of armor to be able to do that because of how armor was calculated. And armor effective rate essentially makes it that instead of needing, millions of armor, if you have two of these, let's say you have a base affix on your chest and your armor, instead of your armor being 60% effective against physical damage, it's now going to be, let's say, 88% effective against physical damage. Because it's 60 plus 14 plus 14, 88. So now, when you have 50k armor, you're already realistically reaching 80% phys reduction without even needing to do a dream affix. And like if you're either way reaching 80% damage reduction, you don't even need to worry about max stress that much. You can instead then play this build that I set out. You don't bother with Fist Convert at all. You go for like 50, 60k armor. You have 80% DR against elemental and physical damage. And then you just get 100% erosion convert to elemental. And suddenly you're tank against elemental, you're tank against physical, etc. And on top of that, they also added a new mod that already existed on the game, but they added now to boots, which is this mod. When you have at least 50,000, they added it to helmets, I mean. When you have at least 50% armor, 50,000 armor, minus 40% additional dot damage taken. The biggest weakness of armor, the biggest weakness of block builds even, is just that generally, like, you're quite weak to dot damage, and like this is a very, very nice stat to have. You can get this on helmet, but this mod already exists in the game on strength boots, so you could get it on both boots and helmet even now. Let me just show you the mod on the boots. Here you go. This was already a modifier on boots that you could get.
Meow, meow, meow.
And now you can also get this on your helmet to have minus 80% additional damage over time. Just very strong, very, very powerful looking. Overall, I think a lot of these changes do feel like they're pushing in the direction away from like attribute stacking. And on top of that, attribute stacking did get nerfed this league. Ralph's Burial and Ralph's Journey both got nerfed, and Magnus's Jealousy got nerfed. I'm gonna be honest with you, when I saw the changes to the gearing and stuff, I already felt like, damn, not only did they nerf Magus's, but like, just in general, attribute stacking seems quite weak to me right now. Like, even last season I thought it seemed pretty weak compared to other options you had. Now that they're giving all of these like strength to like, having rare crafted gear, not utilizing those like uniques and deck stacking and armor and strength stacking things, it just really hurts. I think strength stacking is still very strong. It's going to be extremely strong next season. I think it's very, very good. I'm going to be honest for you. As a deck stacker, it's very difficult for me to recommend anyone to go like Sword E2 or to start deck stacking. I feel like there's other options that just seem so much better. And like, it feels like Erika gets nerfed just because of her movement speed. Where it's like, because in the end game she's such a fast farmer, they just completely gut and kill the build even more and more. When, relatively speaking, deck stacking was pretty weak this season. If you looked at like the builds, how people pushed on Dragon and things, deck stacking was just underperforming compared to every other Dragon pushing build. But in the end of the day, if you can reach 15 trillion, you can reach 15 trillion. It's just gonna be way weaker in the start, in like the early game now. So I'll need to theorycraft a bit and see what we do about that. I am probably still going to play Erika 2 because I love Erika 2, but I'm probably going to make a Rosa 2 starter guide as well as a G2 starter guide because I think Gemma 2 and Rosa 2 are both going to be absolutely incredible to start the season, especially Gemma 2. Gemma 2 looks absolutely amazing. I'll get to why in a bit. Where in the video is that? Okay, I'm not sure when it is in the video, but a new feature that they added this league is they have removed imbue skills. Imbue skills are gone. And they've instead replaced them with focus skills. And I have a lot of notes on focus skills because I think they're very, very interesting. This right here is an Erika 2 full clearing a map by just pressing left click and having her focus skill kill everything you see. The new focus skills look absolutely incredible, and I'm very excited to build around them. So, the new focus skills I've added is Ice Focus, Flame Focus, Thunder Focus, Erosion Focus, and I forgot the physical focus's name. Acuteness Focus. Ice Focus seems absurdly broken to me. I genuinely think if you play like Gemma 2 this league, you can literally take the build that people are playing this league already on Gemma 2. You can just take this Gemma 2 build that already exists in the game and just slap in an Ice Focus. And it's gonna be absurdly, absurdly powerful. Okay, no one on EU is playing it, unfortunately. The Ice Focus is essentially, once you generate your focus points, you're gonna have this big storm that follows you around. This storm is gonna shoot out icicles every 0.5 seconds that deal 1,100 base cold damage. Like, this is such a massive amount of base cold damage to deal, and then consume some focus. But on top of that, they did add magnificent and noble supports to them. And these supports allows it that, one, you can reduce the cast rate from 0.5 to 0.2. Remember before how I said that you need to attack 5 times a second to do 15 trillion? This is gonna let it trigger every 0.2 seconds. So in theory, if you just scale up this focus enough, you could literally reach damage cap just playing a focus build. And on top of that, you can also make it that when you freeze targets, you just deal an additional 6% damage to them. Absolutely crazy, crazy number. I don't think this is very good. I don't think you'd play Solemn Chill. And I don't think you would play Frigid Wind. I think these are the two that you're going to focus on if you want to use this as like a main damage skill. And an interesting change that they made to focus, actually, is... Let me find it in my notes quickly. Is Knowledgeable. So Knowledgeable used to give +10 in power skill, +10 defensive skill. This has been changed now to make your focus skills do 100% additional damage, plus 50 sealed mana compensation, and you can use it in an active skill bar. Knowledgeable is insane. The first time I read this, I literally had to do a triple take. This is so unbelievably strong. This is insanely, insanely, insanely strong. This is such a powerful talent. I'm not sure if focus skills are 20% mana, sealed mana, or if they're going to be 50% sealed mana. But being able to put them in your active slot and then run like 4 auras or 4 Maguses, for example, is a massive, massive, massive buff. It is absolutely strong. It's so incredible. I'm very, very excited by the focus skills. Despite all the nerfs we've seen, I think the new focus skills, instead of imbues, is a very, very good change, and I'm excited to see like what they're doing with. I'm excited to play with them, and I'm excited to make my builds around them, because I do think they're very cool. Ice Focus seems very, very strong. G2 seems incredibly powerful this season. Flame Focus seems absurdly broken for one specific type of content. So, a very cheap and strong build to do SS20 with this season and SS21 with was playing Flame Core Gemma 1. Sorry, Flame Core Gemma 3. Flame Core Gemma 3 is absurdly strong. This is just going to make it even better. Because the way this Flame Focus works is when you kill an enemy, you do 4% of their like max life as damage, right? But this has a support skill, which instead makes it that when you reach 100 focus points, it will just trigger the Flame Focus. Oh, sorry, wait, that's not the one I was looking for. Yeah, no longer triggers support. When focus point reaches 100 points, hitting an enemy will trigger Melting Flame Strike against them, dealing high dot damage over time. Okay, reading this again, this doesn't work the way that I thought it would work, but this is still going to be just a massive, powerful boon to have on Gemma, where as long as you have good focus generation on like a Flame Core Gemma, this is just a massive Ignite dot that you can have in addition to like everything else. I'm not that excited by the Flame Focus, I'll be honest with you. I did think there was a cheese build that you could do with it, but reading it again, I was mistaken. I think Ice Focus looks amazing. Now for Thunder Focus, the one that we were all waiting for. The clip I showed you, this clip, this is Thunder Focus. This is the only saving grace that I believe Erika 2 is going to have this season, and I will try my hardest to make it work with this. Because I want to play Erika 2, I don't want to play Rosa, I don't want to play Gemma 2. I want to League Sword Erika 2 because I love Erika 2. I love playing Catgirls. Thunder Focus. Every 2 meters you move, you gain 5 focus, and you can, at 100 focus, using a non-mobility attack skill, consumes all focus and triggers the skill forward. And then if you're using a melee skill, it does a fan shape, as you saw in the video. If you use a range skill, it's like a rectangle. I don't know yet how big the rectangle is going to be, which is a slight concern. But this does open up the idea to build a movement speed based Erika again. So 100 meters is not that, 40 meters is not that bad. If you look at this, show nearby areas. Show nearby areas. This is 6 meters. This circle from here into where the boss is 6 meters. So like this is moving 6 meters essentially. And this would be moving 10 meters. I don't think it is that bad to like move 40 meters. And if you have like enough movement speeds, and also mobility skills does count as moving. Mobility skills do count as moving. So you could definitely make a build that just dashes around, builds up your focus, and then just has like an activation medium triggering a ranged or melee skill, which just goes off, and then boom, that triggers the lightning burst to recreate the clip that we saw, to recreate this playstyle where you're just an auto bomber, you just run through the map. I'm very excited for that. I'm definitely gonna have to look at this and try to figure out what's the best way to do it. It does seem like they're using the Mother's Charge in that clip, but I'm not 100% sure. But with the Thunder Focus, there's also going to be the option that you can make it trigger more frequently, but it does less damage. If you have enough damage, I think this is like a very strong option. Like if you're either way reaching damage cap and stuff and you just want to make your clear feel better, this is a very strong option. Or instead you can go with Quick Step. Quick Step is just a very strong way to just make your damage, to multiply the damage. For every 5 meters moved recently, it does additional damage, which with a few items to like make you generate more focus, to increase your focus, charge speed and things, you know, you can make it that like you just move like 20 meters to activate the skill, and you're just like constantly gaining like, you know, 4 stacks of this. It seems very powerful. I can't wait to get my hands on focus skills. I think they're gonna be very fun to play with. And this one made me just need to take a second and stop. A season ago, a big problem that was in the game is that every single build would go a Thunder Spike as a 5-link as a second setup, because you could use Thunder Spike to get 10 num stacks on every single build in the game. This is literally that. If you just equip Thunder Focus, you wear no focus items, and you just make it like, you just trigger it every like second, and on top of that, you go Blade Runner. You go to the blade round tree, you take conductive, and you take this, plus one additional, like, you inflict additional num stack. Any build in the game, at the cost of a 6-link, can just get 10 nums on any enemy in an AoE. I think this is very, very powerful.
Meow, meow, meow.
It's going to be interesting to see if everyone does it, because back when every person was playing like a 6-link Thunderspike did come with the benefit of giving you additional, like a number effect, like flat number effect. You won't have that flat number effect, but you will have a focus skill, which seems to do a lot of damage. So it's going to be interesting to see like how strong this is for people. And then the Projectile's Viper skill deals additional damage when nearby the player. This is the corrosion one. I don't have much to say about the corrosion or cuteness one. I'm a bit confused by this from the erosion. You can put your erosion on a 3-link and just have your corrosion focus make the enemies take 38% reduced LA, like just minus 38% LA res. I really don't understand why the corrosion one gives you minus LA res. Like, if it was only erosion resist, I would understand that, but this makes me wonder if there's gonna be a universe where you go knowledgeable and you have a 6-link thunder focus up and a 3-link erosion focus for the LA pen, which I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of that, but we'll see. We'll see how strong it is and theorycraft it a bit. But overall, I think that armor looks very, very strong this new season. Do not sleep on armor builds or strength builds. I think that all 3 Gemmas are going to be incredibly powerful, but especially Gemma 2 is going to be powerful. If you played Gemma 2, like Gemma 2 Icy Blades got buffed, Gemma 2 Frostbite got buffed, the new focus skill, the Ice one, seems by far to be the strongest focus skill, which also favors Gemma a lot. There've been a lot of buffs to like Frostbite and things in like the new talent changes. I just overall think that Gemma 2 seems like one of the strongest starters you can go currently. I think one of the tankiest builds you can play is probably the first convert build, getting like 90 max res first convert, or just getting like 80 max res, 70 max res, 100% erosion convert, and then doing like armor, like 50k armor with armor effectiveness is very powerful. It's definitely going to be a strong option to consider over block. But generally, you can also combine that with block. But at some point, you do need damage. I don't think you can do block and this, because it's a bit overkill. Now, they did nerf Maguses pretty hard. I don't think Maguses are going to be dead. I went ahead and looked at my old build. In my setup that I like cleared SS20 off and things, even though they reduced the Magus to have only minus 50% at most, minus 50% at most, I wasn't even reaching the minus 50%. I was generally only reaching around minus 40 to minus 35 to minus 45%. I don't think that's a big deal, to be fair. But what I did nerf is the damage transfer. In the past, this damage transfer would scale up your origin of Magus effect, and I would get around 69% damage transfer in my build, like 65 to 70% damage transfer. With the new changes, if I use Precise Protection Field, I'm only gonna have about 50% damage transfer, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, it's not even 50%, because it's gonna be 9 times 4, plus 10, plus 10. Which, if it's all additional, then it would just be 56% damage transfer. But there is a bug fix that makes me very concerned, which is this. Fix an issue where values were corrected incorrectly added together when calculating damage transfer. This makes me wonder if damage transfer has actually got a bigger nerf than what it might seem like. Because if in the past it was just like, oh, you have 2 sources of 10% damage transfer, so you just 10% plus 10%. Now instead, it's going to be 10%. So if the enemy has like, you're taking 100% damage, right? You're transferring 10% of it to your Magus, so then you're only taking 9%, and you're transferring 10% of that 90%. Well, now your 10% plus 10% is now 10% plus 9%. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll be completely honest with you. For the way that I was using Maguses in my build, I don't think Maguses are dead at all. I think Maguses in my build specifically is still gonna be very strong. I think for Magus, for builds that are like really abusing Magus effect and like going like strength, like armor with rock Magus and, you know, erosion, plague source and stuff. I think those builds got insanely hard nerfed and deservedly so. I think for just casually using Magus as a defensive option, they're still going to be a very strong defensive option, but they might not be the only defensive option you can rely on. And also, the problem with Magus stacking is that if you do Magus stacking, you do lose damage over compared to doing aura stacking. And aura stacking this league does seem very, very strong because of a new source they added. Because of this. All passive skill slots are supported by level 30 precise restrain. The first passive skill slot is supported by level 3 precise skill conversion. I don't think Magus stacking is dead. I think I could still make Magus stacking still going to be a very strong defensive option. I just don't... There needs to be some incredible sequences for me to not just do this. Because having a level 30 precise restrained is absolutely absurdly strong. I can't even begin to like talk about how strong this is. Not only is off the beaten track still a thing in the game, I did not see any patch notes removing off the beaten track. You can then get yourself a level 30 precise restraint. If you have a level 30 precise restraint on every single slot, wait, why can't I put a second level 30 precise constraint? Okay, this sheet is a bit stupid, but that's fine. So you have like all of these precise restraints. If you have an off the beaten track, precise restraint, and then precise conversion, you literally can fit in 50% auras with only off the beaten track and 3 support skills. And you can just easily fit in all this, you know, you can, with 0 global shield compensation, you can fit in 50% auras. Absolutely absurd. Very, very, very strong. And then if you don't have off the beaten track, but you have like 10% seal conversion, you only need a tiny bit more. Yeah, you need 21% global seal conversion without off the beaten track. Actually, I think 20 would work. It's just this is not level 30. Nope, 0.2% off, so you would need 21. But in general, very, very, very promising. Extremely, extremely powerful to get on a fucking weapon mod. I'm super excited to see the other sequence lists, because if this is how strong Foundation is, I can only begin to imagine how absurd everything else is going to be. But as a closing note, I think I've said my piece. I'm very, very excited for this season. Here is what I think is going to be the best starters for the new season. At least from the years that I've played and know that are strong, rather. I can talk about minion builds. I don't play minion builds. I don't know. I think G1 Flamecore is going to be powerful. G2 Icy Blades / Frost Spike is going to be absurdly powerful. Like Giga S tier. Rosa 2 is going to be Giga S tier. I think that E2 is very weak, to be honest. I'm probably gonna start E2. I'm gonna try and make it work. I think she's in a terrible state right now. It is very unfortunate. The only saving grace that I can see for E2 this league would be if the new assassin tree has some absolutely insane things in it. Because there's an assassin lightning tree that's getting added. Maybe there's something in here that just blows everything out of the water and I'm just insane by it. But I think it's still going to be very fun with Thunder Focus. I think G2 of Ice Focus is going to be Giga Meta. I think E2 is still going to be very fun. I think E1 Strength Stacking is going to be very strong. Strength Stacking did receive a tiny nerf. But the buffs to tenacity stacking, not a lot of people know about strength stacking E1. If you play Erica 1 and you do dex stacking, just do strength stacking. Strength stacking is literally just better in every way. You should not do dex stacking on Erica 1. You should do strength stacking. And especially with the changes to tenacity blessings and things. And like, in the patch notes, they essentially buffed a lot of the blessing things. So like, you can get first convert for free with tenacity blessings using the new rock talent, pet talent. Magnus Laws, which is the tenacity stacking gloves, got buffed to give you a lot more additional fire damage. Just overall, I think that tenacity stacking and strength stacking seems very strong this league, even with the slight nerf that it received. I don't think the nerfs outweigh the buffs at all. Whereas on Erica 2, I don't think the buffs for agility blessing is going to be enough to compensate for the nerfs to the dex stacking. So Erica 2 is nerfed. I think Erica 1 is still... I think Erica 1 is probably buffed / still Giga S tier, to be honest with you. Is there any other heroes that are interesting? I think Selena's a very strong stronger. I think Selena is one of the best starters in the game, but the problem Selena has is scaling her from like starter to like endgame build isn't that easy or that cheap. I think if you're the type of person who doesn't mind like doing 2 characters in a season and you just want to have the fastest start possible, I think you start Selena and then re-roll week 2. You can push Selena all the way to SS21. That's not going to be a problem. She's just not going to be the strongest character for doing that. And let's see, is there any other characters that I think are interesting worth talking about? Iris 1 got changed, Iris 2 got insanely nerfed, unfortunately. G1 is still very strong. Oh hey, that's me. Moto got changed. I don't know anything about Moto. Don't play minions. Yoga 1? Oh, that is something I want to talk about. Something new that they've added to this patch, which I've already considered like doing a non-surging inspiration spellburst build. I think this new item they added, Salt River, might be the pushing point for me to do a non surging inspiration spellburst build. In the current game, you can get up to 7 max spellbursts, and this helmet has a linear 100% of spellburst plus 100% spellburst stack upper limit, which means that instead of doing 7 spellbursts, you're going to do 14 spellbursts at once. And the way that spellburst works in this game is spellburst has a default like generating time of 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds, you will generate spellburst. If you have 1 spellburst, you will generate 1 spellburst. If you have 14 spellbursts, you will generate 14 spellburst. But the amount of time it takes is always a flat amount. So even though this does have the downside of giving you minus additional spellburst charging speed, you can still counteract that with things such as Magister and going play safe, which makes it 100% of your additional bonuses to cast speed is also applied to spellburst charge speed. It does come at a big cost of the damage of your spellburst, but being able to just like generate spellburst way faster is extremely powerful. You will then need to find a way to get a lot of cast speed in your build. A good way to get cast speed is generally dex stacking. Dex stacking gives a ton of cast speed, and you could go like not only cast speed per dex, but you can go Druid, and then also pick up this cast speed per dex, which Druid generally is not a very powerful one to go into because it doesn't have that many like strong talent trees. But with the changes to the talent trees, you know, you can just like take Poison Reef got removed. I don't know if Cultivation got removed. Yeah, Cultivation got buffed. You know, you can just like go Cultivation, for example. Just take the 60% cast speed. There's definitely gonna be enough things in this patch to like counteract the downside of Salt River, and the upside of Salt River is just incredible. Spellburst is very strong. Shooting out 14 spellbursts is insanely strong. Because the way the spellburst works is it shoots out every frame for every spellburst you have. So if you have 14 spellbursts, the next 14 frames, you're going to do damage to the enemy and just trigger up spellbursts over and over and over again. Let's continue looking at the heroes. So that was Yoga 1. Thea didn't get any changes, I think. Didn't get any changes. Both Theas did get buffed this patch, I will mention that. Buffs to Blessing stacking is above to Thea. Quite obvious. Selena isn't touched and was a very strong hero already. So I'm pretty excited for Selena. I do think the build that people went on Selena, I mean, this should still be possible. This is actually a very interesting build. I'll definitely look at this after the video. Karina 2 is untouched. He's still like the free broken OP champion. Zealot of War got a rework. I didn't read the rework because I just don't care. Bane got nerfed for some fucking reason, like a very minor nerf, but still. Rayhan's received some changes, but I don't play Rayhan, so I don't know. Yoga 2, Mind Control got nerfed, Lamau. Erika 1, for some reason she got buffed, who knows. I don't know why they just keep buffing Erika 1. I really don't understand why she keeps getting buffed every single season. If you're confused why I'm saying she got buffed, there is a new pack spread also that came out that is going to be absolutely made on her. Azure Gunslinger. Now, for starters, we just need to take a second to just appreciate how fucking hot she is. Can I find it? Here it is. Dude, look at her. She's so fucking hot. Oh my god, I lose when I see her. But the way that Azure Gunslinger works is that when you use an attack mobility skill, such as Spiral Strike, which is the main mobility skill you use on Erika 1, you gain a stack of Pure Heart, which lasts for 10 seconds. And you can have up to a maximum of 10 stacks or a maximum of 6 stacks at tier 6. And this gives you 5% additional attack damage. 5% additional attack damage at 6 stacks at level 6 on this pet is gonna give you 34% additional damage from a pack spread. On top of giving you 34% additional attack damage, it is also giving you 8% reduced damage taken. I don't know why she's called Azure Gunslinger when she's just like a melee pet. She's absolutely absurd. I'm going to pull for next season. I want her. She's hot, and I'm gonna find a way to make her fit into my build, which does mean not playing Swabburst. So I think next league might be a multiple build league. There's so many cool builds that I'm excited to try out. Erika 2 got nerfed. We will mourn her loss. Blasphemer actually got some interesting changes. I think they added Explode to Blasphemer's like hero tree. And I think the like inclusion of Explode to her hero tree. Oh, sorry. Then okay, it was already existed, but I don't know. They did some interesting changes to Blasphemer. I don't play erosion builds. I don't care. Gemma 3 is really strong. I mean, Gemma 1 is really strong. Gemma 2 is absurdly broken. They nerfed Rosa's hero trait, so she's not going to be as tanky anymore. And they completely gutted the mana stacking Rosa 1 build by like nerfing Haunting Abomination. But instead they just add Rosa 2, which is a mana stacker, so, you know, potato potato. And then the last change I want to talk about. If you watched me last season, you know that I am an insane lover of the Compass strat, of Dorothy and just doing Compass and all those things. They have added this card, which gives you additional Compass Trump count. They've removed a lot of like the cheap compasses. So if you want to do compass farming, you have to spend the extra money. You can't just do a cheap setup. And they've also adjusted like the Clockwork gameplay to like remove some of the rarity ones, which these ones were very powerful because if you get to SSS very early, your entire map just has insane drop quantity. There's a few nerfs to Clockwork. Compasses did get nerfed overall. I'm still excited to play Compass. I think Compass is going to be fine. I love Compass. I don't care if it's like nerfed. I think it's a very fun mechanic to do. And also, they did change Goddess of Hunting to make Goddess of Hunting a bit more attractive as a Compass farming strat. So we're most likely going to do Clockwork Goddess of Hunting next season, once we like reach Deep Space or Profound. And I'm quite excited for that. They also added like, they added immunities to like Euro memories, which I think is quite nice. You can like get a bunch of immunities on Euro memories now. They did nerf the dual Kismets that gave immunities to have like more minus res, which I don't think that's that big of a deal. Like it's the same as like using a candle with -10 resonant, right? You just deal with it. Also, they did change holiness. They made it that holiness gives you -15% L res instead of -10 res, but they also then buffed holiness to give you -25% additional damage from cursed enemies. I think holiness is still absurdly strong. I think holiness is absurdly strong. You're still gonna use this if you don't have immune to curses. And then lastly, they did make it that Mistful, Canvas, Eterna, Nightmare, all of these things have increased health and attack power. So the change here to Nightmare, to make it that like Dreamtalkers can drop up in stacks of up to 20, I'm a big fan of that. What I don't like about this change is they didn't change anything about Deep Space Nightmare. If you've done Nightmare in Deep Space, like in this current patch, you go into your Deep Space map, and there's 800 mobs on it. You enter the Nightmare has 300 mobs. Nightmares are like a barren wasteland in Deep Space. The quantity of mobs doesn't scale up with Deep Space, and it just feels like you're running around in like a wasteland trying to find enemies to kill. I do hope that like before the patch comes out, they do fix that and they increase the monster like density in Nightmare. So we'll see what they do about that. I'll be honest, I don't think Mistfall and Eterna stuff needed the HP to be buffed. I felt like they were kind of fine, but Frozen Canvas definitely was too easy. Getting into Deep Space Canvas was way too easy, and this is like a very good change. And on top of that, they did make a very big buff to Eterna. The normal Eternas are now Timemark 80, or level 86, and the expensive Eternas are now Profound difficulty. I think this is a very nice change. If you did runes farming last season, I think runes farming is gonna be like a viable early option now. Like the Eternal Reverberations fleeting are gonna you're gonna drop so many like FE just running these, and if you eventually get to like Profound difficulty, you're just gonna make like 1,500 FE an hour or something crazy like that, just doing Eternal runes farming. So overall, I'm a pretty big fan of this. I think this is really nice. I'm probably still just gonna League Star Canvas and then transition into doing Clockwork Compass, because that's what I have fun with in this game. I'm gonna have to see like how bad is the canvas like nerfs in the sense of, you know, it being harder to do, but overall, I think it was kind of deserved. Like, there's no one that can say like Deep Space Canvas was like Deep Space Canvas and Profound Canvas was just significantly easier than mapping. And like putting these things more in line makes sense to me, and I think it's a good change. Instead of just like nerfing the loot from Canvas, which would have been like the worst option. But yeah, overall, that's my thoughts about these patch notes. I think there's quite a lot of exciting changes. A lot of the new like talent notes they added are also very, very interesting. The new like Netherrealm talent constellations. But I think this video's been going on for quite a while. I think I've said quite a lot of things about the new patch. I hope you all loved and enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, doing all those things. I will be uploading more theory crafting and more build videos in the coming up week before the patch comes out. And I will again be doing like a starter guide like I did last season in my spreadsheet. But before I can do any of that, we do need TLIDB to get updated with like the new sequences and stuff and like the rest of the changes to come in. Because obviously these patch notes are still incomplete. But overall, I hope you all have a lovely day. I'm very excited for the new season, and I hope you all are as well. Bye YouTube! Bye bye! Bye YouTube! Bye YouTube!